Well, good morning and welcome to Brekkie, the Guy Who Sews. Today is not Sunday, Saturday, the 21st of October. And I just want to say thank you for everyone joining us. It's going to be an abbreviated live. We'll only be able to be live for about 45 minutes because we have an action-packed day in our household and I was just able to squeeze in this much time. But I did bring along my good friend Ginger from the Copycat Quilter, who's been on the channel here with us once before, back in March, I believe, and I was excited to have her come back. So do you want to just say hi to everybody, Ginger, and just let us know a little bit more about your channel, because we'll have people filtering in and also watching the replay as well.
Yeah, sure. So I started my channel, I think it was March, because I think I started like at the end of January or beginning of February. And I like to like find things, quilts that I like and try to figure out how to make them. I'm like a geeky math tech person at heart. And so I see so many times somebody would post a quilt with like a charm squares, 9-patch something, and everyone would immediately be like, oh, we're going to find that pattern. And so since I love to pick that kind of stuff apart, I decided to do that on my channel and just help people be able to make quilts without having to have a pattern, if they see a block that they like or a design they like. And so I've been doing that and playing around with some panels because I buy lots of panels and then don't know what to do with them. So that's kind of what I've focused on my channel.
Yeah, and I've had fun watching your channel, and you've had some really, really good growth because you're, is it 2,000 subscribers now?
Yeah, I think it's like 2,250. Not that I watch the numbers. It's funny. I watch the numbers just because I'm a numbers geek. Like, it's not like I'm trying to make a living off my channel or anything. But, I'll get so excited if I get close to some milestone. I'll be watching to see when that happens. But, if you look to it like the watch hours, it's amazing to me that people have spent that many hours watching things that I've created. That's really incredible. It makes me feel like it's important for me to try to put out good content too,
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm the same way. Like, I think if you're at 2250, I think I'm at 2280. So we're almost, head to head on that one, which is really cool. But yeah, just the fact that people, they've got so many channels they can watch, and the fact that they click on ours and watch it, just amazes us. So let's just say good morning to the folks that have hopped in already. It looks like Pam from the Empty Nest Crafter is here. Good morning. Oh, sorry, good evening, because she's in the east coast of Australia, and it's like 11 p.m. there now because they jumped over to daylight savings about 3 weeks ago. Teresa Lynch is here. Brenda Foley, Polly. I'm going to butcher the name. My coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Cheryl Curley is here. Good morning. Kathy is here. Cynthia, Jeanette, and Lynn looks like it's here with us as well. I know Stephen Bland, the Idiot Quilter, is having his all-day quilt retreat today, so I think we'll get a lot of folks coming back in and watching later on, and I get a lot of replay viewers because Saturday morning is one of those times that people like to sleep in, except for the crazy people like myself who like to get up and have lives. So what did you bring along to sew this morning? And you showed me off camera, and I think this is a really neat idea, a really neat thing.
Yeah, it's funny. I catch about half of your lives, and then I'm the replay the other half because I'm
not
fine. Get up at the same time, consistent kind of people. So yes, sometimes I'm up at that time on Saturdays and sometimes not. So there's a charity in Philadelphia that it's a pretty simple idea. They provide beds to kids who are in homes, where they may be sleeping on the floor or on couches and not actually have beds. So they provide beds and everything, and they add quilts. And of course, with like most charities, the first thing they ask is for boys stuff because they just get an overwhelming number of quilts that are more girly. So I had found this fabric at a quilt show that I went to. I'll hold it up close. And it's science, like periodic table of elements, beakers, zeros and ones for like binary, like really
that's neat.
Weird. And I'm just making just do big strips of it in different sizes. And some rows I did like patchwork, and making twin size or extra long twins. Extra long twins are incredibly long. So I just cut strips of all different sizes, and I'm piecing them together and making a long skinny column. I think this one is about 38 inches wide. And then I'm going to put stuff down the sides to, block off the sides to make it wider. But it's a fun way to make some really quick. And it's novelty fabric and it's directional, which are like two of my trip ups. So at least if it's big strips, it's pretty easy to keep right sides up and not turn them upside down, So this is my latest project. And I had, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 yards total of all these different coordinates. And I'm going to get 3 quilts out of it. because I'm using some like solid strips in between it too. So
Oh,
just
that's awesome.
strips.
I think that's great.
Yeah, it's
So
fun.
I'm just trying to make heads and tails of this pattern that I'm trying to do.
And so you do patterns and elaborate stuff, and I'm sitting here just like cut a big strip, sew it together.
And that's what I love about quilting is that, we just you do what works for you. Like
Right.
I enjoy a simpler project on occasion. Sometimes I'll come home from work and I'm just mentally exhausted and I can't sit down and try and put, a 1.5 inch by 2 inch to this and that and everything else. But I think my heart and soul has been drawn towards these small, intricate things. I'm going to try and get as much of my bee done as I can in the 45 minutes that we have. I'm not going to get finished, but it's part of the Fab Farm. And then I did this little strawberry a couple of weeks ago to test to see if I like the background fabric, and I've fallen in love with it, thankfully, because my goal is to use as much from stash as I physically can.
Right.
And so far, I have not gone to the store for any of this, and I think I can make the whole quilt.
I love that.
Oh, this thing is fun. Like, I absolutely love this pig. I think the fabric that I had on hand was perfect. I'll pull it up just a little closer. It's like I guess like a grunge, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
It was actually left over from a baby quilt that I made for a coworker a couple of years ago. And when I saw it was for a pig, I was like, this will be absolutely perfect as well. Okay, so Jeanette is asking, what is my t-shirt this week? And it's the like sewing heartbeat one. I got it for Christmas last year. It's one of my favorites. So there you go. And then what's your t-shirt? So I see it looks like a sewing machine.
I put on a sewing t-shirt just for today. It's
excellent.
It's one of the Life is Good shirts. They actually have a couple of patterns that are quilt or sewing machine.
Oh, that's nice to know.
I have, I think, 2. I knew you would have one, so I went and found mine.
I always like to put one on, and it's nice now that, like, especially on Etsy, there's a lot more stuff out there that's not super feminine, because there's you go to a lot of quilt shows and that sort of thing there, and it's hard to find shirts that are suitable for guys. So I'm glad that there's more and more options out there as well. It looks like my friend Jan from Western Australia has popped in as well. Joyce is here. She says, good morning, Sean, Ginger, and everybody. Lynn says, good afternoon. Sean and Ginger, rainy day here in the UK, catching up on indoor chores today. That's what I like about rainy days, because it means you get to stay home and sew, usually. So I can't complain about a rainy day. Kate Berggren, I'm probably butchering her name, and I apologize in advance, is here with us this morning. She says she's happy that she can finally catch a live of us. So it's good. I need to go ahead and get started. Otherwise, I'm going to sit here and chat the whole time. You won't see a single thing getting sewn. So, our days can be pretty busy. We have 2 exchange students, Simon from the Czech Republic and Lorenzo from Italy. And I always butcher his name because the O is short in Italian, not long like we tend to use here in the US. Hey, we learn all sorts of cool stuff here in this house every week. But Simon found out that there was a Czech Slavic festival about an hour and a half away, and he really, really wants to go. And Lorenzo has 2 events with his school friends this afternoon. So the only way we could make it all work was that we leave here about 9 o'clock, we run up to the Czech festival, hang out there for a few hours, come back, drop Lorenzo off to thing number 1, and then take him off to thing number 2. And I was like, I don't know if we can get a live in, but I figured, you know what, we've about 45 minutes while everyone's still sleeping. So here we are, we make it work here. So, all right. So good morning to Brandy from 100 Proof Quilter. It's good to see her. She has her own channel, should be !Brandy. And she's a lot of fun. I enjoy seeing her content when I can, and she's been on the channel before as well. And then definitely hit the !Copycat or !Guest to grab Ginger's information if you haven't already done that. So Miranda Irwin is here from Northern Ireland. It's nice to see you here as well. I always love seeing folks from different countries around the world. So that is awesome. Okay, so I am getting distracted, and that is never a good thing in my world. Okay, let's see.
Ireland's one of those places on my bucket list. I would love to go to Ireland someday. I haven't.
Me too.
I want to go, and I don't want to go to the same place twice until I've been everywhere. So.
Yeah, I think the closest I've been to Ireland would be Prince Edward Island in Canada. And they say it's very much like Ireland with the rolling hills and everything else. Now, I haven't been to Ireland to compare, so I can't say how true that is. But if you ever get a chance to go to PEI, definitely do so. That place is a lot of fun.
I'm going to Montreal at the beginning of November for my job for a couple of days. So that'll be fun. I told my boss I would go like later in the winter, like beginning of November is about as cold as I can take it. So I'm going in November before too much cold starts.
That sounds good. I've never made it to Montreal. I'd like to go. I would like to brush up my French just a hair first.
The guys at work make fun of us, those of us in the United States. Our company is, well, it's global, but our headquarters are in Canada. And, you know, whenever you're saying words you shouldn't, and you say, excuse my French, they just like always crack up at that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can read a bit of French. But as for speaking it, I'm not very good at all. I am trying to learn, but it's a very, very long process.
Yeah, it's not my skill set. I can pick out some Spanish stuff. We watch Spanish channel soccer sometimes. And sometimes even if it's simulcast in English, we'll watch the Spanish version because we just sit there and laugh at how fast they talk. And every now and then I can hear a word. I'm like, okay, they said 3, you know, they used the number 3 in that sentence.
Yeah, my Spanish is horrible. My Australian accent just butchers it. So even if I'm saying the right words, it's not going to be correct. So I've given up on Spanish. I'm halfway decent at German.
Oh.
I can handle German, okay, speaking. I mean, I'm not fluent by any stretch, but you know, if I say the right words, the Germans can understand me. So, and I think that's about the extent of my international speaking. I always am impressed by the kids that come over here and stay with us that can actually speak a different language.
Yeah.
Like, and do it fluently. Daria that we had last year from Macedonia, I think she could speak 4 or 5 languages, like conversationally at least. And like at 17, I mean, I think that was just amazing.
And now I went to India one time and we had a translator that was with us, and we were at the corner of like 3 states and each one spoke a different language. And they're not just dialects, like they are separate languages. It's not like regional dialect kind of thing. And we would walk into a group or something and she would ask, you know, which one they spoke. And they would say, and she would like shake her head and start. And I always thought it was funny. Like, I think she knew like 8 languages, but it was like she was changing channels to get to that, to get to that language to be able to speak.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, if I ever went, India's the place that fascinates me, but if I ever went, I'd have to take my Indian co-worker with me so he could kind of take me around, because I think that'd be a challenge, especially since I don't like crowds.
Yeah. I guess it depends on where you are. And there, when I went there, and I went to Africa once, and I was with a friend that lived there in both places. And so, you know, it was really good. It wasn't like touristy, but we weren't on our own trying to figure out everything either.
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it, is if you have a local, you know, that can take you around, it's a lot more fun. We try to do that.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you were talking about, we were talking about like the trouble finding boy quilts, and you were talking about trouble finding like shirts that weren't too feminine.
Yeah.
I struggle to figure out, like, especially for a little bit older boys. And kind of in my head, the thing that comes to my head is like dark colors, but also like just nothing with a flower on it, which is hard to find. But I'd be curious, like, what other people think makes something a quilt or a more masculine quilt, especially for like teenage boys.
Yeah, I would love to hear that answer as well, because like I know for Simon, we did, I went and found a bunch of like blenders and like grunge fabric and just did a simple patchwork for him, and he loved it. I found out his favorite colors. He liked purple, dark blue, and black, and I was able to make a quilt for him. And you can go check out that quilt on, I forget what episode it is, it's like 70 something. And then for Lorenzo, I'm actually in the middle of quilting his right now, so that's a spoiler alert for tomorrow. And he is getting the Samba quilt.
A what quilt? Oh,
it's called the Samba quilt. It's one I made last year. It was actually going to go to Simon until I found out he liked blue, black, and purple. And then I said, I'll just give this to the next kid. And then I didn't realize the next kid was going to be like 2 weeks behind the first one. So, it is what it is. So but that's getting quilted along. So yeah, I think solids, blenders, grunge can always work. I think batiks could work in certain situations, but yeah, I would love to hear. Okay. Jamie from the Quilting Compound says plaids. I hadn't thought of that, but that's a good option.
Yeah. Immediately I would think of plaid flannel. Like what's not warm about plaid flannel?
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
I live outside Philadelphia, but I was born in Texas and grew up down south. So I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, which is really frowned upon in this area. And
I can imagine.
I know like sports fabric, if I bought some Eagles fabric, that would be hot, but I just can't stand to make myself sew something for the Eagles. We're like an anti-Eagles household. So
yeah, I could see that being a problem in Philadelphia. Teresa Lynch says outdoor fabric is good for guys in sports. Yeah, I mean, I think like sports in general, kind of doing team specific is kind of get hard. It can be hard because, like you said, if you have especially in this area, like we have a lot of military in our areas. So like we might have people. Exactly. So me doing a, Washington football team or whatever they call themselves these days, might not be the best idea because, we may have a lot of Dallas Cowboys fans here or the Eagles or Kansas City Chiefs or whoever else. I don't really follow football, so I'm just picking out teams I know. But yeah, like I'm more a baseball fan. So, all right.
And actually probably around Philadelphia, any of the sports teams, especially these are going into like the downtown Philadelphia area, it would be really safe to use Eagles or Phillies, for something that local and where we have, in Philadelphia, there's every sport has a professional team. So
yeah,
do it in Philadelphia. And I'm okay with other sports, just not the Eagles. We love the Union, the soccer game, and the Phillies are doing great right now. We'll watch those. So I could just make Sixers and Phillies quilts and not Eagles quilts.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And if you're in Toronto, I think you'd be pretty safe making Blue Jay stuff. That was one stadium I went to where you get a lot of stadiums, like especially I think was it the Nationals or the Orioles? I went to one of those ones, and it was probably like half of the spectators that day were in the opposing team's outfits, including myself. But I went to Toronto, and I think I was the only one that wasn't in Toronto Blue Jays gear. Like those folks definitely support their team up there. So if you're in Toronto and you need a baseball stuff, just slap the Blue Jays on there. I think you'll be just fine. Brenda Foley says her husband has fallen in love with purples. I would kind of really have too. Purple is my wife's favorite color, and I've really gravitated towards quilting with purples, not because of her necessarily, although I'm sure she's had influence on it, but I just like a range of purples and pinks and that sort of thing that there is in quilting fabric. So I just kind of have gravitated towards that recently, which is kind of neat. So, okay. Leslie G says she tends to use geometric prints, blenders, solids, animals, and sports fabrics. I think that's wonderful. A wonderful idea.
I probably do that and avoid using it because it frustrates me if it's off grain a little. So like your squares, I mean, this had like that periodic table of elements that's directional and geometric, and it'll bother me like if that line is not straight. I think it worked out okay on this one.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier, like the periodic table. I was like, if I had a quilt like that when I was in high school, I might have actually passed chemistry. Now let's not lie to ourselves. I probably still would have failed, but yeah, I think that's fun. I really do like that periodic table one. I think that's a lot of fun. I think I've seen that fabric in the store once. I asked Simon if he wanted it, and he looked at me like I was crazy. But,
yeah. This one has some math stuff on it. My she has a degree in math and physics, and this one has like some math equations and things like that could be very mathy if you didn't use the periodic table ones or the laboratory ones, but I thought it was cute. And I think I told you before we started that my friend is in a Rotary Club, and she actually owns a scientific instruments company that does the glass speakers and things like that. So she's very science brained, and I am too. And she's the one that told me that the charity needed boy quilts. And I'm like, I feel really sexist making something sciencey and saying it's a boy quilt, because girls can be smudges too, and from both of us. But it's like, and even the bright colors, I'm like, okay, if a girl needs it and she's there, but at least it's not feminine, put it that way. Whether it's masculine or not, it's neutral, I guess, gender neutral.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of going into it, is that you are making something that's not super feminine. So that way, if they have a boy that needs it, they can give it to them. But if there's a girl that would suit, it can definitely be used for them as well. So I think if you look at it that way, like, you're not saying, well, it can only be for a boy.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of thinking about it. All right. Oh, that's Teresa brings up a wonderful point here. She says Dave from Dave's Craft Room does another type of male type quilts. Yeah, so he'd be a wonderful. Yeah, definitely hit that. He has a wonderful channel. And I think he's a wonderful guy, and you should all check out his channel. I think if you put exclamation Dave in, you'll see his stuff. But yeah, if you want someone that does a lot of stuff that would be suitable for guys, Dave is a wonderful, wonderful resource for that. And then another one that would be really good too, at least for patterns, just popped into the chat, and that's our friend Fallon from So Be It Quilts. I mean, her patterns are wonderful. And she also does, I think, a lot of times stuff that's not super feminine. So that way there, you could also check out her stuff as well. I think that'd be fun. Teresa also says she uses a lot of Southwest prints. I think that'd be a really good idea. Polly says she has 4 grandsons. 2 sons don't mind florals as long as they're not super girly, but would rather have plaids, geometric, sports, novelty fabrics, their favorite things. So yeah, we're getting some wonderful ideas in here as well. And if I missed somebody coming in, I think Evelyn Blanco I may have missed, Betty Chapman, Leslie G. If I missed someone, I apologize. I have I'm trying to concentrate on like 5 different things at once, and it doesn't always work out for me. So bear with me on that.
Usually that doesn't work out great.
Especially as a guy, you're only supposed to be able to do one thing at once. So I'll use that excuse.
I wasn't going to say it, but
hey, I use it as much as I can, like I don't see a problem with it. So what have you been up to on your channel recently, for anyone that's just popping in or may not have heard of you? If you haven't, definitely hit the exclamation point guest. And that will give you Ginger's link. I'll get it right in a minute there as well.
I did a couple of videos about panels, and I did the little panel palooza thing, and I actually still have a couple of those I want to do, because I see so many people that you're attracted to the panels when you walk in the store, and they're just like these beautiful prints. And I think even when we buy them, we're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So, and I love traditional patchwork, but I do give practically everything to charity. So using a panel is a fun way to get to make some patchwork to go around the edges, but you're not committing to like a whole quilt top of patchwork. And it's funny, it's kind of funny as quilters, the things that we know to look for, like, oh my God, that's intricate piecing, or look at the perfect points, where people that you give quilts to a lot of time were like, what a cool picture, because the last one I did, I showed my friend, and she's like, oh my gosh, that's so pretty. How did you get those animals on there? And that's the panel part. Like, that was the easy part. And I had 200 flying geese around the edges. And to someone who's not that's not the impressive part. So I'm going to do a couple more panels. And one thing I'm really excited about, my Quilt Guild had a guest last week who, she's like the ultimate copycat quilter. She doesn't call herself that, but she wrote a book where she took some Mennonite quilt that is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And it's a huge quilt with these tiny blocks, and she recreated the whole quilt. She did all the math and the drawing and everything, and has a beautiful book about it. And she's created a ruler to help do it. So I want to have her on to do an interview and just talk about it. She's also has like a computer science background. And so when we were talking about it, she's just like me about, she sees something and she wants to work it out in her head. It's a puzzle. And she does Quilts of Valor, a couple of books she's written where people send in quilts. I think they took them from all 50 states for the Quilts of Valor. Yes. And then voted on like 10 of them. And she actually like created the pattern for those. So she took the picture of what they had done and translated into a pattern, like reverse engineered it. So I'm excited. I want to have her on to talk and just hear her thought process about that, because we really clicked just in the few minutes we were talking about it from the presentation that she did.
That's really neat. It's always good to get different people's, that's one reason I like bringing guests on to the channel each week, is I always love hearing the input and the ideas from someone else, because I don't have all the answers. I don't have everything. And Plus, it's also fun just to have someone to chat to while I'm live. So, but yeah, no, it'll be fun to see if you can get the interview of her as well. But yeah, and the Quilts of Ella, I think, is a great. There's so many great charities out there, but the Quilts of Ella, I think, is something that's kind of speaks to me here because we do live in such a large military area, and the Carnival Puzzle Mystery Quilt that I'm doing with cotton cuts right now is in the red, white, and blue. And my intention is once that's done, it will go to Quilts of Valor or another military organization, so that way it can go to someone that served the country so well.
Do you have a local chapter there where you can go and watch the presentation and everything?
Quite possibly. I mean, I haven't looked into that part of it yet because the quilt's not going to be done until April at the very earliest.
Yeah.
But once I get into that, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be somebody here local. You know, we have like the East Coast's largest Navy base here. You know, we have, I think every branch of the military here is represented. So, yeah, being able to watch it.
Presentations that if you get a chance to go watch one of the presentations, they're really cool. They're very emotional because they talk to the person they're giving it to, and that person comes up and they tell about their career. The person presenting like reads off, kind of introduces them about their career and everything. And it's really emotional. Like
wow, I didn't realize it did all that.
Thing. Yeah, it's just, they do it through ceremonies. It's not just like go to the hospital and hand them out. They have people get nominated to receive a quilt, and then they have like a presentation with that person. It may be, I think it's usually like a public thing. They may do some in private, but I know like newspapers will cover the presentations sometimes because a lot of people come.
Oh, wow, that's neat.
My guild does a lot. I haven't done any. I tend to end up other kinds of charities, but my guild has a very active group of Quilt of Valor quilters.
Okay. All right. That's really, really neat to know. That'd be really neat to actually see it. So I might have to look into that, when the time comes and see if that's something we can do. So
I know the Quilting Marine, he had a show, an episode where he had made a quilt for Quilts of Valor, and he went to the presentation, and I think Ron Appel was there too.
From well, I think they changed the name now. He was affiliated with Missouri Star, and now he's out on his own.
He was there too, and they surprised, is his name Daryl, the Quilting Marine? I know people's tags.
Mark.
They surprised him and gave him a quilt, and it was really emotional. But he has an episode where he went to one of those, and he had donated a quilt and then received one.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, Mark's a cool dude. Like I got to he hang out with me for a few minutes on the quilt trunk show that I did last December. He hopped on with me for that for a little while, and it was just really neat to talk to him. And I'd like to have him back on, on a live or, do a project together. And, we hope to do that someday, but, I know he's incredibly busy. So,
it's fun because even like, you're talking about Dave, that's the thing I like about Quilting Marine and Dave's shows is they are just very scrappy. I mean, sometimes they follow a pattern, but the best shows are the ones where they're just putting stuff together, and sometimes you're watching and you think this is not going to work out. And by the end, you're like, wow, this really worked out and it's really great. I saw on Dave's craft room, it amazes me how he'll stick to something. He'll be making something that's the most intricate, tiny, and I'm just like, I would never have time for that. And you'll see him getting frustrated and stuff, but he goes through with it and he just ends up with some just really unique quilts. Like whoever gets one of his quilts is a really fortunate person.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. All right. Don't worry, Sean, you're rock. Yeah, I've messed up part of my pattern already. I'll have to recut some stuff out. It's just not. So we got to move on to something a little simpler.
I'm sewing 40-inch long strips. So
okay.
Very, very simple today.
Yeah, it just seems like every time I try and get smart and sew something intricate on a live, I end up having to recut something because I goof something up. But you live and learn. It's all right.
Yeah. So my guys at work, I've been working this company for a year now, and the ones in Canada that I'm going to see in November, I think they know way too much about me because they said something about when I came up, and they said they would take me to a lunch at a shop or lunch that had a quilt shop next door. and said, but they wouldn't make me go outside in November because they know I'm from Louisiana. I'm like, you guys have respect. You know, I don't like cold weather. And if there's a quilt shop next door to the lunch place, that'll be great.
I know, right? That'd be fun. You'll take some video in there so we can see what the store looks like up there in Canada. But I love seeing different quilt shops because, you know, everyone has its own unique flair and no two are the same. So I always like seeing, you know, footage and that sort of thing there of a quilt shop.
I forget about the idea of doing that. Like just walk around the store and, you know, because, you know, the owners of the store love that. Like, and they enjoy showing. Most quilt shops, you know, they're like your best friends when you walk in the door.
Yeah.
And when we travel, I would say frequently, but probably always, I do the Google search of what's close to the road we're going down. You know, if we're going down an interstate, okay, where's closest quilt shops off this interstate? And Dean's okay with stopping. He doesn't mind, and especially since he's been learning the long arm, he will go up and be inspecting the quilting of what they have on the walls while I'm looking at fabric. So I should do that when we go in. Just take some quick videos and talk to the shop owner, maybe.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Because I mean, that's free publicity for them. So they're not going to say no. Yeah. Well, usually not. I mean, you might get somebody that says no, and that's okay. You know, it's their store, their decision. But yeah, I've never had anybody come across me and say, hey, you can't do that.
And it's interesting. They all have like different flavors. You know, they all have different. There's one that we stopped at, I think it was in West Virginia, that was still very much like a house with just rooms, and like one bedroom was this and one bedroom was that, you know, and it's like, it was really unique. And it was kind of, I won't say strange, but I had trouble following the pattern of what the rooms were, because she had like a room of solids and had different rooms with different things, but they seemed to kind of cross over. But she was super friendly, walked around. You know, some of these places too aren't very busy. So the owner's happy to chat you up and talk with you and talk about what they like and what their store's like.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I mean, that reminds me of a couple of different places we've been to. There was one, it was actually a yarn store that we went to between Pittsburgh and Legion. I'm probably going to butcher the name of this place, Legionnaire. It's like in the middle, like in this tiny little village, and it was somebody's house. And like the first floor was just like a little yarn shop, and she was like the sweetest lady. And yeah, because it was me and my wife and her best friend, and we had the dogs with us. And you know, usually like when we went to a quilt shop, I just took the dogs for a 10-minute, 20-minute walk while they shop. But apparently they heard I was outside the dogs, and she's like, "I'll just bring them in. It's okay." Apparently she had like she's had cats in there, dogs, a goat, all sorts of stuff. But yeah, she was just a sweet lady. And then there's another store that I went to just outside of Farmville, Virginia, and it's in kind of like this old like farm, like barn. And it was like the coolest place, because I could walk around the new corner into like a nook and see, you know, old cool fabric and that sort of thing there. So yeah, I like seeing those different stores where it's like someone's house or a barn or an old, you know, farmhouse or something like that. I think it's really cool because it's just, you kind of go exploring, you know, rather than just going up. Like, I like big stores where you can go in and just walk up and down the aisles and it's all organized. Usually my OCD likes that, but I don't know, for some reason with a quilt store, you can be, as long as the fabric's organized. Like there's stores in Australia called Spotlight, which is kind of like Joann's, but they just a lot of the stores, they just have stuff thrown everywhere. Like the bolts are just, and that drives me insane. But
I think I remember hearing you talk about that one time, that there was
it's not the first time I brought it up. Won't be the last. So.
There's a lady that owned a store in Jersey that I used to go to, and she had apparel fabric and quilt fabric and upholstery, and it was a small shop. I was in there one time when the fire inspector was in there telling her, you have to clear this stuff out of the aisles, because she had like, you know, the below rack and the top racks, the shelves with bolts, and then in front she had bolts stacked out 4 or 5 in front piles of each. Like you couldn't walk down the aisles very easily, and you had to move out of the way to see the bolts behind it on the shelf. And I was in there, and the fire inspector was saying, like, you have to, but that's like what they're known for. And I've never been in there when it wasn't like that. So I guess they didn't close them down yet.
Yeah. And when the fire marshal tells you have to do something, you have to comply.
Somehow they managed to to stay above that line, I guess.
Yeah. So there you go. Oh, geez, now I've messed that up. I'm just not having a good day of this. Maybe there's a reason we're only having a 45-minute live today.
You were saying about maybe doing a collaboration about the pigs. When I saw that one, I thought, I may make my son something that has, well, I actually have some fabric for him that has like pork products, like it's got hams and salamis and pepperonis, like really weird. He's a chef. And I was thinking maybe I could do like that flying pig block and just do one of the blocks and make a pillow, but then use the same kind of fabrics and make a big quilt for him. And he's a tall guy, so it needs to be like at least queen or king size to cover himself. But maybe I'll make a pillow using the little tiny pieces like you enjoy doing.
Yeah, I know. I'm one of those crazies that like doing the small stuff. And the pattern she's talking about, I believe, is the is it Space Bacon? I think it is, where they have like Space Bacon by Art East Quilting Co. Which is a pattern that's I think it's like little piggies in like spacesuits. And then strips of bacon. I think that one's really fun. I need to do that at some point. That'll be a 2024 project because I'll never say never, but I'm really, really trying not to start anything else new in this year.
Yeah.
So
that would be so perfect for him because he's been a cook or chef for a long time. He did culinary in high school. He's just really into food. And then we have like a family joke about like bacon. Like he has a thing about bacon. So definitely need to look at the one with the bacon. I have bacon fabric for him too. I think I have one that's got like pork products and then one that's got bacon, just blue fabric with strips of bacon all over it.
Yeah, I saw a fabric that was like, it looked just like bacon and I almost bought it. I should have. But I'm also trying to be good and not just buy fabric for the sake of buying it. So I'm really trying to be good. Okay, so what I've done so far is this is my part of the bee. I've done that successfully, even though I had to rip some of it out. And then this I have to redo because I shouldn't have put these small pieces down the bottom, but I might see if I can wing it like I did with the panda the other week. And then this here. So I haven't got a whole lot done because, I keep goofing up, but that's okay. They have the pepper. Yeah, Teresa said they have a pepper fabric, like a hot pepper fabric. I've seen that one too. I think that's I think the one that does all those foods like the bacon and that sort of thing there is Timeless Treasures, if I remember correctly. All right, Lynn says she has to go find a new blade for a rotary cutter. Okay. Fallon says only 45 minutes. White, who's going to keep me company wise? So, well, Ginger has a lot of content you can go catch up on, as do I and all of our friends. Yeah, we just have a busy day today. And we just tried to squeeze in what little time we had with that as well. Pam says Spotlight's having some great sales lately. Been getting fat quarters for under $3 Australian each, which is amazing because usually the fabric's like twice the cost that it is here in the US. So I think that's wonderful. Jamie at the Quilting Compound says she had the honor of giving a quilt of valor to an Iraq veteran who works with my husband. There was 5 veterans on a wonderful organization. I think so. Yeah, I really do. I'm really looking forward to getting that quilt done in April next year and being able to give it to someone that, has served the country so well and that can use the quilt. Because that's always my thing with my quilts is I want them to be used. It's always, it's hard letting them go because you put a lot of work into it and they always look so pretty, but it's nice to see them get used. And that's always my goal. Like if you wear it out, I'll fix it, I'll make you a new one. Like I have no problem with that whatsoever. So, and I think I've told the story before where my coworker, his daughter loves the quilt that we made for her a couple of years ago. And it's the only one she ever wants to take with her daycare. That just makes me so happy, like, because it's being used. Like if you wear a hole in it, just, let me know, we'll fix it. Teresa says, telling Fallon she can go live and we can hang out with you. That's an idea. Guess who? Nancy is here with us. Good morning. It's good to see you. And I'm glad you made it. We'll be hanging out for about another 5 or so minutes. We do have to cut this one short because, in our household, we have a very, very busy day. We're going all over the place, to try and catch as many events as we can. And I did not want to cancel today's live because I like hanging out with you guys each and every week. So Joan Reed says, good morning, Sean and Ginger. Just catching you before I go to my quilt show until breakfast. Oh, my quilt show until breakfast. I'll watch the rest on the replay, 7:45 a.m. here. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's see. I've got that done. I'll fix that in a minute. And Yeah, I really do think I need to start being smart and not trying to do these complicated patterns during a live, because I always end up goofing them up. One of these
Promise
days I'll learn.
done like 3 strips double this while you've been doing your little tiny strips.
Oh, there you go. So there you go. Let's see.
My
Yeah, so
mom,
come back tomorrow. Yeah, when you come back tomorrow, you'll hopefully see a completed B. I figured, it only had like 25 pieces. It shouldn't take that long, but still in me.
I was going to say, my mom won't see this show, so I can tell this story about her. But when she makes quilts, like for her grandkids and me, she gives you like a 2-page letter of care instructions. Don't do this and don't leave it folded too long this way, and never let a dog touch it, and wash it gentle. And it's so fun. It's like really elaborate instructions. So to contrast that, whenever I give quilts to my kids or people that I know, I'm like, I'll put a note, like throw it on the ground, use it, roll on it, stain it. It's meant to be used. Like I want them to do that.
I'm with you. Like, I usually take a photo of my completed quilts. I don't have room for a design wall. So I usually put it on either the kitchen floor or the living room floor. And every time I put it down on the floor, I can count to 5, and usually Finley will be on it. So the first photo I take is her on the quilt, and it's always a cute photo. But yeah, if you don't like dog hair on your quilt, I'm probably not the best person to give you one, because it's got to come with a little bit of dog hair. So Lynn is asking, what is the little ruler I am working with? It's by Creative Grids. It's called a folded corner clipper. And I found this is really, really good for any like stitch and flip, or when you're cutting small pieces. It's basically what you do. I need to do a tutorial on this one day. Is you line it up like so. So the line where you cut is going to be here. Sorry, I'm pointing on the wrong side. I'm going to have to do a tutorial. I'm not doing so crash up with it. Basically, what you do is you line it up, you cut it, and then you sew at your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then it comes out pretty much perfect each and every time. Does that make sense?
Do you still have to draw on the back of your square?
No.
Oh,
No, because basically what you're doing,
I would like that. Draw on the back of all those squares.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I got it, because I saw Kendall from Kendall Taylor using it on one of his lives. So it's always hard doing it when you're holding it up. So let's say you had this. I'm not going to cut this because it's not the right piece of fabric. At least I don't think it is. So you have your piece of fabric like so, and then you put, so the line that's a 1/4 inch in is touching this corner and this corner. And then if you cut here along this line, then when you sew your 1/4 inch in, it's perfect. And so you don't have to cut.
You cut it and then sew instead.
Correct. Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, you cut and then sew. I've really come to enjoy it because I do so much sew and flip and stitch. I thought it'd be something really good for me to do. Apparently you can use it for binding as well, for cutting your binding strips and getting your miter corners and that sort of thing there as well. So, but yeah, I've been using it now for about 6 weeks. And I don't know if I'd ever go back to doing it the old way. I really enjoy it. So I do need to sit down and do a quick tutorial and say, hey, this is how you use it, because I think if you do like an overhead shot and show how it's done, it's gonna be a lot easier, because trying to hold it up and then hold the ruler and all that mess, it's just not working out for us as well. Okay, so with that, Fallon says she's working on the Legit Kits free block. It's taken a lot of my brain power, and so that one looks like a lot of fun. They did bring out a new pattern that's free, and it's almost like a 3D block that you can make together. I haven't done it yet because I've got too many projects going on at once, but it looks like a lot of fun. So if you want to see more on that, definitely head over and check out. I think Fallon will probably do a video on it. If not, someone else will have something for you.
Maybe I'll go do that, because I haven't done one of the Legit Kits before. Maybe I'll go grab a free block and try it before.
And I think that's a good way to start off, like start with the free block and see if it's, with FPP, I don't mind it, but I'm definitely more a traditional piecer. Like as we talked about earlier, I prefer doing the small intricate stuff, which I know legit kits can be as well. But FPP is just not at this point in my life, and I might come back to you in a year or so and say, hey, I'm on the FPP wagon and I'll never do traditional again. But I think that's highly unlikely. But yeah, it's a good way to check it out. So
I've done the paper. Well, it's backwards. You're doing it from the wrong side. But yeah, I've tried a few pieces, and yeah, that's like you said before. Everybody's got their jam in quilting, and that one's not.
Yeah, but there's a lot of folks that like it out there as well.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. So before we just run off real quick, because we do have to cut it short because we have a very, very busy day here today. Do you just want to tell us about anything that you may have going on, or anything that's about your channel that you have that for anyone that popped in a bit late, because people pop in during the live, because not everybody is early birds like me.
So I'm setting up that interview to do an interview with, and I feel terrible, I don't remember her name. Her first name's Carol.
Okay.
To chat about her book and how she takes historic and antique patterns or quilts and figures out the pattern for those. And she's written some books about those. And then I'm also starting something new. I haven't decided if I'm going to put it on my channel or maybe try to write a book. I want to I'm either going to call it Read Me a Quilt or Quilt Me a Story, but taking some children's books and the ones that I found that had about quilts in them and making a quilt like inspired by that book. So you could get the book, you could make the quilt and have the book and read it with a child. A lot of quilters, I won't say all of us are grandmas, but a lot of us are grandmothers. And it's definitely the demographic. So I thought it would be really sweet to have a quilt that's inspired by the book and, be able to read it with your child. And as you're reading and they're talking about the quilt in the book, kind of point out the same things on that quilt. So I've been reading a lot of children's books from the library because of that. And so I'm either going to I haven't decided for sure if I want to do it as a YouTube series or maybe try to write a book doing those patterns, but just really inspired by, not copying what's in the book, but being inspired by it.
No, absolutely. And maybe you can do both. Andrew's asking what I'm working on. I've been working on a bee and making mistakes all over the place. I mean, I've done this part correctly, but that's about it. So you'll have to come back tomorrow and check out the podcast to see if I can actually finish it. I thought it'd be like an hour project, but it didn't work. But we do have to say goodbye, unfortunately, because we have a lot of stuff going on today, and you'll get to see some of that footage tomorrow during the podcast. I just want to say thank you to Ginger for hanging out in the green just to be here with us just for a little bit of time today. And we'll definitely have you back again. That way you can get a full live of us. But I do appreciate you being willing to work with me this morning and just having a good time. So with that, we'll just say goodbye to everybody. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Go check out Ginger's channel. I put the link in the description. She has a lot of fun stuff. I think you'll really, really enjoy it. And if you do, hit some like buttons, subscribe, and also leave comments, because we always love hearing those. So with that, I hope you'll have a great weekend. My next Vlogtober post will be out, video will be out tonight, and then my next podcast will be out tomorrow morning as usual. So have a great weekend, happy sewing, and hope to hear from you soon. Bye.
Thank you.